Are you looking to move abroad, but you're scared of what may happen to your relationships, whether you're married or you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and you're trying to figure out, is this trip for you? Is this life change going to benefit you or cost you to lose? Today, I'm going to be jumping to some topics that actually you should take seriously when moving abroad. And these are some things, valuable tips that honestly I would tell anyone, my closest friends, to actually be aware of when you move abroad. And some of the lessons I've even learned on my journey. My name is Keanon Slade, and I have successfully achieved FIRE. That is, I have achieved financial independence and retired early, and I'm here in sunny Costa Rica. And more than that, I'm a life coach that helps good guys build a great life outside the US. And part of that is actually realizing it's not just about your fire numbers, it's not just about finding a location, it's about doing what's good for your relationship, what's beneficial for you. And there's some things that you really must be aware about when you actually move to a different country. Let's get into it. I want to stop you real quick just to say something to my divorced men. If you guys are looking for something that will help you after you've been divorced, separated, heck, even dumped, and you're still looking to move abroad and you're trying to figure out how do you adjust and to deal with this, I want to have something special for you because honestly, going through that situation, I want to give you something a little bit different because your journey is different. And you can find that information in the link below. And let's get into the rest of the video. The first point that I think is really important to figure out is when you move to a different country, you're isolated. Most people don't actually set up things where it's, okay, I'm going to meet these people remotely. I'm going to build up this group and network people and people around me, and then I'm going to move. No, normally it's, okay, I'm taking my family, I'm taking my wife, I'm taking my boyfriend, girlfriend, and we're moving abroad. And that's how we're going to start this new journey. And we're going to be at the beach and we're going to do this. And the problem is most people don't realize you're going to be isolated. And especially until you start working on new plans of making new friendships, no matter what country you're going to go to, yeah, you might find friendly people, but realize you probably have had your friends for 20, 30 years. It's completely new. Everyone is the first day. I would say your day one, but that actually means something else. But it's actually going to be like your first day at school, trying to get to know people. And then if you go to a place where they speak a different language, that even adds another barrier. And so what happens in your relationship is one of you might be gun-ho and like, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to jump into, we're going to find church groups. We're going to find sports groups. We're going to get into this. We're going to do some things and start to meet people. And the other may not be so excited. And what happens over time is there's that isolation because it's, okay, I'm going to hold on to them. They're the support group. And so they got one person in the support group, and that's you. And you're trying to go out and find other stuff. Even when you're doing couple stuff, you've been in situations where it was your boys, you grew up with them, you love them, and their spouses or their girlfriends don't click with your spouse or your girlfriend. And so it's not just, oh, I will just fix that by finding couple retreats. Yeah, it is a plus, but it's not always a given. And so you end up in a place where, or one of you ends up in a place where there's like this social isolation. And that is something that if you're not aware of, that can really trip you up. Because the name of the game is really not to be alone in life. It's be able to take the journey and be able to go with someone else. Now, if you realize it's there, this is something that can help because you're like, okay, I'm starting over. Remember, I'm starting over. I'm changing the chip. This is going to be new. It's not just new in location, it's new in relationship and a whole other things. And so that is actually very important to realize so that you actually have a successful journey with your spouse or your girlfriend. So if you're really resonating what I'm talking about, I want you guys to watch to the very end because I put all of this together so that you can actually have a complete picture of things that you really need to consider when you're moving abroad, especially when you want to have a successful relationship. Because if you move abroad and your relationship goes, yeah, the worst, I'll just say that, then your utopia, no matter if it's Costa Rica or not, it doesn't feel good because you're always going to either be fighting battles, fighting the person, or fighting their decision to leave. Or matter of fact, they leave and then you have to make a decision. Which one do I hold on to? The dream, my utopia, or the love of my life? And so you don't want to do that. That's not a win-win situation. It's a lose-lose situation. And so I want you guys to watch to the very end so that you actually understand that there's some things that you really need to consider. The next point that I think they miss is that it's the culture. Now, most people were like, oh, I'm moving for the culture because I love the culture. But really what they're thinking in their head is, I'm moving because I don't like these things in my culture and I just really want to replace these three things and keep the rest of the stuff and then just only have these three things, new three things. And it's what I decided when I moved to a different country. And so the problem with that is that's not reality. And again, when you're going as a couple to a place, if one of you has that subconsciously in your head, then it's going to trip you up because the US culture is different than the culture in Central America, South America, wherever you go, Europe, wherever you're going to go. And so, yes, there are similarities. We're all driving cars and we're all trying to find love or we're all trying to build a family and da 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 da. But don't let that fool you because there are some cultural differences that you actually have to realize before you go and during and learn while you're there. And the problem is if you think that you're just going to bring United States to wherever you're going to go, you're going to find that your expenses are probably going to be high because you're going to, I only know this brand and it's imported. In the United States, they make it there, so it's 50 cents. Wherever, if you go to Japan, it's $20 a cup, a sip. Just look at it for 100. So your budget can be deeply impacted. If we're even just hanging on the topic of food, it's okay, I can't find what I want and I don't want to eat this stuff because you're not willing to give things try. Or the way that you greet people here in Costa Rica, the big thing is that you greet everyone, well, after you get to know them. So that's something that you got to learn. It's normally with a hug and a kiss. Now the pandemic kind of switch that, but really it's still in the culture. So it was hard in the pandemic. But those are the things, and actually a lot more that's dealing with any culture, depending where you go, that you have to be aware and realize that you're going to have to adjust to. And each of you are going to have to adjust to, because you don't want your wife sitting there, I don't think she likes me because she's showing some cultural difference that you didn't recognize in your new place, and it's a given in the United States. Or I can't find any girls that want to go shopping with me. Now in Costa Rica, yeah, you can find people, but a lot of people are here because they like the nature, not because they're going out shopping. Now, don't get me wrong, people in here go shopping and things like that, but the talk normally is, oh, when we have this weekend, I got this weekend here, let's go to the beach, let's go to the hot water springs as a family, and let's go. It's about nature and camping versus let's go to this mall and go shopping. It's generally not those things, especially with the ticos. Ticos is the people that are in Costa Rica. Now, if wherever you go, you find out the theme. What is the thing that people like to do, and how does it align with what you're willing to do? Because you're going to have to change. You're in a different country and adjust it. And that is the whole thing about moving to a different country. It's not just, oh, you change the location, I'm going to set up my house on the beach, and then, your vision, you're like, I'm just going to look out on the beach, and that's going to be it. And it's like you've isolated yourself. That goes back to point number one. You got this beautiful home, you're somewhere in the beach, you're somewhere in the mountains, and it's just you two. It's like, how are we going to do this? Yeah, you've isolated yourself from the rest of the community, and that's not a good place to be in. So before we jump into the next point, I want you guys to click on the link below, because in the link below, I want you to be aware that when you're thinking about achieving FIRE, there are some adjustments that you're going to have to make, especially once you leave corporate. There is a whole mindset that you really need to consider when you're thinking about moving to a different country. There's a mindset that you're going to have to consider, and honestly, you need to be able to think out the box. So I want you guys to be able to click on the link so that you will have some of the tools that you need that will be able to help you on your transition and your journey so that you don't lose out. So with that, the next point is dealing with the lifestyle changes. And when lifestyle changes, I don't just mean, okay, this is pretty and, it's wintertime in the United States, but there's still summer. Yeah, not just that. Like lifestyle and role changes. If you achieve FIRE, and you've been in corporate, you were maybe an executive, you've made good money, you were the man, you were the woman, you were the head of the projects, you were known by all the success that you bring in, or you or your spouse, because this is a couples thing. And so you get to your utopia, and now you don't have that. Or the roles are different. You were the breadwinner, you were making all the big bucks, and your partner, maybe they worked or maybe they didn't, now is, okay, they're going to do the little stuff. They're going to work. They're going to bring in the money. Maybe it's not so much because you don't need so much. You fired and you're like, okay, we just take this extra and we'll live off of that. These are like these part-time jobs you can do remotely or whatever it is. And so the roles have changed. So if you don't realize that that does cause a different feeling, if you will, even like the first year, maybe, or however long that internal, it's all internal. All of the internal stuff goes on. Yeah, you might be cool with it. You're so distracted about, oh, we're here and we're going there, that you don't actually see it. Eventually, it gets to a point where if my value was in my successes or my failures at my job or how good I was, and now I'm not giving anything per se. You might hopefully you have investments and they're doing their work, but now I gotta wait, or I have to. My wife is doing it, and it can be very uncomfortable. And I think this is being in that position. I used to wonder why people who actually hit retirement went back to work, and it was like there's like this value that's missing. It's like you can only sit around and watch so much TV. If you're a person of purpose, you need a purpose. And so if your identity is jacked up and you're going to be looking for purposes in the wrong place, looking for love in all the wrong places, yeah, looking for purposes in all the wrong places, you're going to find that, this transition and lifestyle change, this role change is going to be very hard for you. And so you need to be able to correct your identity. Again, I had to find, even though I grew up as a Christian, I didn't realize that my identity had shifted from Christianity to just being good, being great, being good at whatever it is, a father, a husband, a coworker, the best project, we're going to blow the project out and beat the budget, and beat the time. We did it, and those things I didn't realize how much value I got. And then when you go to a place and you're like, you don't have any of that. It's like falling and there's nothing to grab on. It is a hard feeling in transition. It's something that you need to be aware of, again, for you and your spouse, because when you're like, you don't have anything to grab on except each other. Again, you're new to the place, new to the land. The beaches only are so pretty, and it's like they can't save you. And you start grabbing on somebody who's used to just, I don't know, maybe going along for the ride, or maybe they didn't have to contribute as much. You're going to find this unsettling feeling with these new roles. And so you're going to have to be able to adjust and make adjustments and actually think through this and see, okay, maybe I do or don't want to do this. Maybe I'm going to start my business, which I always recommend, because for me, I think it's not just about firing to do nothing. I think firing allows you to find and actually have time for your purpose. If you were in corporate, you've probably been completely busy. They suck up all your time. It's more than, most of you guys know, it's more than an 8-hour day type of thing. And so when you leave corporate and you still have that power, that passion, that drive to do something, then I recommend that you guys do it. And building a business of purpose, helping out the community some kind of way. And so when you start to do that, then yeah, your role transitions, but it doesn't completely leave. And of course, finding your identity in Christ is number one, because no matter if your business fails or success or is doing mediocre this month, you are still good. So the question today for you guys is, have you guys considered what things that you need to think about with your partner besides just which place should we go? Should we live in the mountains? Should we live in the ocean? Of how we're going to be able to transition. What help do we need? Do we need coaching? Do we need counseling? Do we need to deal with some stuff before, during, and after we get to our place of utopia so that we can transition well? So are you guys considering, the help that you need? So with that, we're going to jump into the next point. So the next point would be communication challenges. And this really comes in where I've been saying different things you should communicate about, where you're maybe not communicating clearly. I keep joking, but I'm actually dead serious. When you really only focus on, we're going to go here because it's sunny, we're going to go here because of the ocean and the beach, and I've seen the view and I loved it on vacation, it was great, we're just going to stay there for the rest of life. That's like surface level communication. And so there needs to be deep communication with you and your partner about certain things that you need to consider. For example, if your partner is very close to a family and they're going to want to see, and you, let's say, budgeted very lightly, as far, you're like, we're just gonna stay there. Should we even consider going back home or having somebody come, and or maybe going to a hotel with family in mind, and maybe chipping out to pay for some flight expenses to make sure that we're all together no matter what country we're in. If you don't consider that communication is not had, like that's not important enough to actually talk about, then you'll find that one of you begins to get comfortable. You get that homesick feeling because you didn't make any amends to actually take care of home, if you will. Yes, you have a new home, but you still have a lot of resources and people that are back home that you are going to potentially miss, care about, because they're not in the picture. They're not the people that are coming with you, but you still need to figure out how you're going to plan. Now, most people will either not think about it or overthink about it. And so you need to be able to come into communication with each other, because you may be cool. You're like, all right, I got it. It's solidified in my head. We're good to go. And you may not think about it. But until you have those in-depth conversations about some things, consider, are you going to be all right? This is okay. How about we do this plans, and we do Christmas here, or we do da 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 there, and we'll do this so many times a year. Are you good with that? And so those kind of conversations really need to come on, because when there's challenges in those conversations, yeah, it can get pretty not good. It can turn a little bit. And so you need to actually be able to sit down, have those conversations, and it's not going to be perfect, but you're going to undo many of those challenges as possible. And I would say the last thing is most powerful. Again, I told you guys to watch because I put all this together so to help, but it is having a purpose. Now, you may have a purpose, or your spouse does and you don't, or you're like, my purpose is just a vacation, I'm gonna chill. But let me warn you, if you are a person of purpose, vacations must end, no matter if you want them or not. It's cool to sit at the beach for a few months and do nothing, but really, if you like always are determined to bring value to the community, the society, your workplace, which you'll need to redefine, or your family, you need to actually have a purpose, and your spouse needs to have that in a purpose too. And they may not necessarily be the same, but they need to have a purpose, especially if you marry somebody of purpose. And the reason why is because you'll feel like, okay, you're on this journey and it's cool. Now again, the first few months, maybe even the first year. For me, it took me a whole year, but I did limp through. Like I made it, the finish line, full of stress and everything else. Again, I'm almost thought I was dying, which I probably could have because of stress and anxiety. So by the time that I got to Costa Rica, it was like nothing, do nothing. But even as the months and the weeks went on, or the weeks and the months went on, and then we end up getting to the year, it was like I don't have any purpose. And you'll find that if you don't have any purpose, again, that drastically affects your utopia. Because everyone else that you're going to meet are they're potentially they're depends on what age, but they're going to work, they're taking care of their family. My kids they were teenagers, so they took care of themselves. It was like, oh, here, go to this event, and that's it. I am doing nothing. So again, I'm dropping them off to their purposes to grow and blah blah blah. But me, nothing, spouse, nothing. It was like, okay, the friends that we had, they were gone at work. Here's traditional or typical to find people that go to work 6 days a week. And then that one day is almost for everything. And so those things, like if you don't really have a purpose, and you're sitting around like around the clock, like doing nothing, and that really gets old. And you can only look at the trees like, oh, this is beautiful, because I do talk about gratitude, but you've already lost the gratitude. You lost the this is beautiful kind of thing. Now there's a way to gain that back, but if you don't actually have a purpose, or your wife doesn't have a purpose. I've seen many couples and talked to a lot of couples that the partner didn't have a purpose. They had a purpose for being here, but the partner had lost the purpose. And what happened was the partner's, whoop, I can't take anymore. I'm gone. And now you get that tension between, do I follow my partner and go back to a place I don't want to be in, or do I keep my utopia? And you're like, the easy answer is always, but it's not always so easy, especially if you found your purpose here. And it's like, can we, now this person is not like this cold hearted, we're here. Is, can we do something to get it back here? And it becomes that hard thing that you got to figure out that maybe you could potentially avoid if you plan. Now, in an ideal world, everything is perfect, but really it starts with conversations to avoid certain things. And these are some of the hard conversations that you need to have when you consider, especially firing and moving abroad. And so, guys, if you've been resonating with me, if you've been hanging with me all this time, I want you guys to like, comment, and subscribe, of course. But I want you guys to leave a comment, potentially share, and click that link below. Until the next time, I will see you on the other side.